Hey guys, it's Darren and welcome back to ASE, where we talk about entrepreneurial well-being and doing your best work. Have you ever just felt low energy or unmotivated or even anxious with the work that you're doing? I certainly have. And I think that one framework that has helped me deal with these sort of feelings or this lack of productivity, lack of work performance is to think about energy. Why? Well, energy, at least in the physics sense, is defined as the capacity to work. So if you're not able to work or are struggling to work, oftentimes those performance barriers are actually energy barriers, right? So I want to talk about energy in more detail, but let me first share a story. So when I grew up, I was a competitive tennis player. I played tennis from age 9 to 22. I played for my college team. And one really important skill when you're competing is to maximize your time in between points. Let's say the score is 30-all and I'm down 4-5 in the first set and I double fault. It's an awful unforced error at the worst possible time. Now it's 30-40. I'm facing break point and my opponent could win the set. Well, what do I do right after that unforced error? I turn my back to the net. I literally turn away from what just happened. I start looking at my strings. I start adjusting my strings. I start taking deep breaths. And I even start bouncing on my toes. What I'm doing with all these rituals in those precious 25 seconds I have before I have to serve again is getting myself in the best possible physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual state to compete on the next point so I can give it my best performance. And as solopreneurs and entrepreneurs, and even as corporate employees, we're all athletes, right? You might be an employee, but you're really a corporate athlete. I'm an entrepreneur, but I'm really an entrepreneurial athlete. We're trying to perform at the highest level. And we need these same sort of energy rituals to do our best work. Now, let me just talk about this post that I wrote nearly 10 years ago that is one of the most popular posts on my blog, upstartist.tv. And one reason why I thought I should record this episode, right? Because clearly this post is helping people. So the title of the post is The 4 Dimensions of Energy: Physical, Emotional, Mental, and Spiritual. And it summarizes the lessons I drew from a book written by Dr. Jim Lohr, who is a sports psychologist. And he wrote a bunch of books about mental toughness training for tennis players and for athletes, and then later shifted all his performance science to the corporate world and helping business leaders perform. What was the breakthrough insight from this book for me was that it's more important to manage your energy rather than your time. We always hear like time management is the most important thing, right? Because we only have a finite amount of time. Well, what if you have that time, but you're super low energy and you can't do anything, right? So this book kind of shifted my thinking that it's energy and not time that we really need to focus on. So what are these 4 dimensions of energy? The first is your physical energy. In other words, the quantity, how much, the quantity of your energy. Then there's your emotional energy, which is the quality of your energy. Is it a positive emotion of approach? In other words, filled with challenge, enjoyment, and opportunity? Or is it the negative emotion of avoidance? In other words, the perception of threat, fear, or survival. Okay. The third dimension is mental, which is the focus of our energy. And the fourth and final dimension is spiritual, which is the force of our energy, right? So if any of these dimensions is understressed or overstressed, our performance suffers. So for example, if we don't get enough sleep or we eat poorly, our energy store is depleted. I think that's obvious. If our energy is constantly precipitated by, perception of threat or fear or survival, we'll quickly burn out. This is the fight or flight response. I mean, it's very helpful when we're under threat because it gives us this burst of energy to run or to get things done, right? But always living in that survival fear state with that sort of emotional energy can really wear us out quickly. Finally, if we're constantly distracted or feel that our work lacks purpose, well, we all know how that turns out, right? Because half a head or half a heart never produces our best work. Dr. Lohr proposes in this book that our best energy is pleasant and positive energy, meaning that it flows from the perception of opportunity, adventure, and challenge, and that it's important to have rituals that unlock our best energy. Now, I think another way to think about these 4 dimensions of energy that's really interesting is to think about them as well springs, 4 well springs of human energy, of body, emotion, mind, and spirit. Because this image of well springs of like water shooting out from the ground, right? And you're just putting your hand into that wellspring and like drawing the energy, right, from the wellspring is so powerful because it's true. Energy can be expanded. We all know that feeling of having a burst of energy because we're working on something we really enjoy doing, or we're with people we love and they have high energy. Yeah, or we're playing a sport and we're in the zone and it's so much fun, right? And then we just get this burst of energy. So energy can be expanded, and I like this idea of the 4 well springs of energy that you can tap into. So let's go back to last Friday when I was feeling completely low energy and unmotivated. It was Friday, 3 p.m. I'm living in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam, and we're under the strictest lockdown ever. We basically can't leave our apartments. It's hard for us to source even certain types of food right now. And there's a lot of uncertainty. And I usually love my Friday afternoons, but here I was at 3 p.m. just pissed off, low energy, not wanting to do anything, feeling hopeless. Well, now that I have this language, this vocabulary to identify the different types of energy, I can really tease out, why I might be feeling this way. Was it a physical energy problem? For sure. I mean, I'd been eating ramen noodles for the past 2 nights. I was eating crap, right? So of course, the quantity of my energy will be affected. Is it an emotional energy problem? For sure. I was definitely feeling negative, under threat. I'm not able to source certain types of food. And that's never a fun feeling. And I'm pretty much, locked in my apartment by myself. I haven't seen people in a long time. So it's completely understandable why I'd be feeling emotionally drained or my emotional energy is super low. And what about mentally? Yeah, I was very unfocused. I was very distracted by all the bad news. My attention was in many different places. So knowing these things, I can take a step back and say, okay, what rituals can I implement here, or what actions can I take to restore these well springs of energy? Clearly, on the physical side, I made myself a nice, healthy dinner. From the emotional energy side, I said, Darren, it's okay. This is a really stressful time. You don't need to be productive right now. You can afford yourself an afternoon off. So to get that emotional energy back, I did activities that I loved. I talked with friends online. I played Catan for a few hours to relax. I, watched an hour of TV, which I normally don't do, but I basically gave myself the afternoon off, let myself not worry about work, just chill, like emotionally cope, right, with my situation. And mentally, I told myself I don't need to be checking the news all the time. I don't need to be overwhelmed by, all the social media posts and negative news that is coming in. I can, check the news once or twice a day. That's fine. And so after doing all these things, the next day, I felt much, much better. In fact, I felt like I wanted to work again. So I hope that this episode gives you the language to think about your energy, these 4 dimensions, these 4 well springs, and gives you some more tools to overcome you're quote unquote low energy, or when you're feeling anxious, or when you're feeling unfocused. And I'll also link to two articles. The first is the blog post I wrote, The 4 Dimensions of Energy. And the second is a piece by Tony Schwartz called Manage Your Energy, Not Time. And this piece, which was written in the Harvard Business Review, is very helpful because you can actually do an energy audit. There's 16 questions there that you can quickly answer and see where you might be overstressed or understressed. And that will give you a lot of insight into potential rituals you could use to, tap into, say, more emotional energy, or more better mental energy, or more spiritual energy. All right. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you guys are doing well, staying healthy out there, and we'll see you on the next episode of ACE. Thank you so much for listening. And if you enjoyed this episode, please press subscribe and leave us a review on your podcast app. It helps more people discover the show. Also, you can find all the show notes and links mentioned in this episode at upstartist.tv/ACE. That's ASE. Hope to see you there.